Hey guys, Dan here with the Grenade Monster Review, and today I have my Halloween TBR. These are a few books that are going to get me into the spooky season, and hopefully you too if you're interested in reading along with me. So hit that like and subscribe, and we'll get into it. Okay, so this is my Halloween TBR. I'm super excited about this list. I'm super excited to share all these books with you. I'm also going to be making a Halloween recommendations video, and I'm hoping that a lot of books that are on this list are going to end up as new favorites, new Halloween favorites. So first we have Crypt of the Spider Moon by Nathan Ballingrud, and this is a novella. I really love to put a lot of novellas around Halloween time just because I feel like I'm always rushing. I feel like there's a lot of story to be had with the novellas, and it just makes it a little more fun. I feel like you just get a little more, a little more Halloween. But this is about a cult that's located on the moon, and they worship a gargantuan spider. This is supposed to be sci-fi, a little bit of horror, a little bit of both. And this is just a little different from what I normally read. I do love aliens. I love science fiction movies, but I don't always take the time to read science fiction books. So I'm really excited about this one. And then next we have Rotten Tommy by David Sodergren. And if that sounds familiar, he also wrote Maggie's Grave, which I was really torn between the two. I really wanted to read Maggie's Grave as well. But realistically, I don't think I'll have time. Maggie's Grave is pretty popular. I've heard a lot of people really love that book, so that's another reason I wanted to read it. But I went with Rotten Tommy because it's newer and it's just a little more out of my comfort zone, I guess, than Maggie's Grave would be. So this is about a woman. Her mother went missing 40 years ago. She ends up finding tapes hidden within the walls of her childhood home. And of course, she watches the tapes, which releases some sort of entity or ghost that was trapped within the walls. And this is a very violent and malevolent thing that it has a bloodlust that she can't control. So she's trying to figure out how this is connected to the vanishing of her mother from 40 years ago. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the ghost of her dead younger brother. I haven't read this book. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like as much horror as I read, a lot of times I can be like, this is going to happen, but we'll see. We'll find out together. And then next we have Meddling Kids by Edgar Quintero. And I feel like this is such like a Scooby-Doo type of coming of age story. This is about 4 teenagers. They end up solving a local mystery in their town. Come to find out years later, the person that they thought was terrorizing their town was actually wrongly convicted. And so they're coming back together. They're trying to figure out kind of where they went wrong. Their lives have since fallen apart. So they're coming back together, trying to figure out what they did wrong, where everything went wrong. But this sounds like a really fun story. It sounds like there's a little bit of comedy, a little bit of heart, which I'm not always a big fan of a lot of heart in my books, but I feel like this will be a good, almost, I hate to, always compare it to it, but I feel like this is something that would be in that vein. And then next we have Midnight Masquerade by Greg Chapman. And this is a collection of short stories. You got to have those novellas in there. This has one of my favorite short stories of all time, The Last Night of October, which is a phenomenal, phenomenal book. I talk about it all the time. At least I talk about it a lot when I'm talking about Halloween and things like that, because it's The Last Night of October. It's so good. So I have a really good feeling that this collection of short stories is going to be probably one of my favorites. There's a story about a clown, some other things, October Lane. It just sounded so perfect for a Halloween TBR. And that was Midnight Masquerade. And then next we have Lost Souls by Poppy Z. Brite. If that name also sounds familiar to you, he is the author of Exquisite Corpse. And that book I've read and reviewed, that's an extreme horror. That would also be a really good read for Halloween. It's very dark. That's something that isn't going to be as lighthearted as some of these books on here, but we'll see how Lost Souls is. This is a vampire book. I felt like I really needed a vampire book, especially for Halloween. I don't tend to gravitate toward vampire books, but this is one that's not as well known as, say, Dracula and things like that. So I'm going to try this. We'll see how it goes. I started it today, actually. It's set in New Orleans, and it has that real Mardi Gras vibe, which I really love, which goes perfect with vampires. So I have a good feeling about this one. And then last but not least, we have Intercepts, a horror novel by T.J. Payne. And this is a book about a government experiment gone wrong or gone right, I guess, depending on who you ask. I don't typically really like government experiments gone wrong. Sometimes I like the shows like Stranger Things, government experiments, but as like Firestarter by Stephen King, I absolutely hated that book. So it kind of scarred me from really wanting to venture out into government experiments. But this one is set in West Virginia, which is a setting I always love. So we'll see how this one goes. I'm excited about it. I feel like there's a little bit of a different vibe from other books that I've read along this genre. But we'll see how it goes. If any of those books sounded good to you, let me know if you want to read along with me. I would absolutely love that. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions or you have any favorites that you tend to go back to every year. But hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.